Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I am your host, Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review, and we play local, unsigned and indie music. As always, you can find us on Facebook if you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound. You can also email me here at the studio by dropping me an email on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I particularly want to hear from local musicians, performers, poets, anybody with MP3s they'd like to share, or anybody who thinks there would be a good guest on the show. So, this week we're doing things slightly different because I have fallen behind on my interview schedule, so we don't quite have a best of show ready to do yet. We've got 2 interviews happening this coming week for the upcoming shows. But in the meantime, we're going to have another album review special from Twangling Jack Ford because he sends me lots of album reviews. So it's the only way for us to keep ahead of them. Plus, I will say, Twangling Jack, if you search for Twangling Jack in the Oak Shed on YouTube, you'll be able to find his YouTube channel where he's been posting all of his album reviews there as well. And so by putting a bunch of them out in one episode, we give him some more content. Otherwise, he can only post one video a week because he has to wait for them to air on the show before he can put them onto YouTube. So we're going to join Twangling Jack in the Oak Shed later on for some album reviews. First off, though, we're going to go to the Rhylight Zone. This is some poetry by myself, Dane Cobain. This is from my first collection, Eyes Like Lighthouses When the Boats Come Home. I'm not sure whether we're going to keep doing the Rhylight Zone. We may or we may not. I'm actually looking for more people to sort of submit their recordings. So if you're a writer, please do send me an MP3 of you reading some of your work and we'll get it shared on the show. I do have a short story collection coming out in June next year as well, which is going to be book 3 in the Lightfold series. So it's like sort of quirky, cozy mysteries. So because there's this short story collection coming out, I guess I could sort of serialize some of those as well. We will see. But in the meantime, anyway, this is some of my poetry. You're getting sick of the you're getting into, and when you've had a bad day, you've had a bad day, and that's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and maybe it's the season that leaves you feeling evil. So scream if you know what I mean, because you seem to need a quick release, or at least that sneaky drink you think will make the world spin. And if you've had a bad day, you'd better find the words to say to play games to take the pain away. Stay strong and silent and suffer fools gladly. If you want happiness so badly, then seize the day and take it. Awesome. It's the source of all wisdom, it's the rhythm of decisions and missionary positions, better than life and death and everything. We're entering an era that's clearer, and when you look in the mirror you'll see time is like a river which repeats itself, and your awesome day will be awesome again and again. It's the same strange way you feel alive today, and you've got to run until the fun begins, a circle you work to curfew. Weird. It's the strangest rain at the end of days, or a name that's changed again. The field of dreams you seem to see with your empathy. And the streets are clean and breathe healing winds to rattle your limbs and bring you singing. Strangely, sadly, softly rattling reality. Parting ways in the wind and rain. Long. It's the dilation of time and lengthy lines in times of crisis. The short, sharp shock at the bottom and the top. The ticking of the clock as the bombs go off. And you watch and wait and you ambulate straight ahead with your legs of lead, my friend. And in the end, this day will always be the day you wished away. Tiring. You've got the evening wind and the morning worry, and you're always in a hurry like the cowards and the bullies who hurry like rats from a sinking ship. And you've got to think of lips and hips and flip the switch quick before a deep sleep sends you reeling into fleeting dreams of evil. Stressful. Let it out and in and let it out again, because you've got to scream and shout your heart out, because it's the little things that clip your wings and send you crashing to the floor. And I'm sick of corporations bringing sickness to the nation when we're grateful to pay full price for what we don't even need, and then they bleed you dry because money buys time and time cures the evil in upheaval. Boring. It's inland revenue forms, sweeping leaves in the breeze and cleaning the bathroom floor, painting the skirting board the same colour, too far gone to be turned on by whatever turns you on. Old songs retold in a new mould, and it's a repetitive ending. Busy. It's the hard and the grind, the time you find to sign your life away. And I promise to be honest when I'm tired and melancholic, and I'd rather be in demand than empty-handed. 'Cause I can't understand how I bowed to demands and landed badly underground, and when you're around I'm drowning in sound and proud of it. Average. You gotta find some excitement like Assassins hatching plans to stand around, out on the town in a dressing gown, not a frown or a smile for miles. The sighs and yawns as thoughts form all the silence in the world, and today is any other day, tame and tired and uninspired, better than bad and worse than good, building the barriers and baking the mud. Relaxing. So it depends how you relax, because I've got to be stacked with for narrowly avoiding a heart attack, and you're probably thinking that the stress just melts away, but maybe it's the rain that gathers slowly, falls down suddenly and disappears again. So take the time to heal your mind and try to find a sign to remind you of the sublime time you were relaxing. Okay, those were some poems by myself, Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. We've got some new music to share with you. So this is Wait and Wonder by San Dimas. This is their upcoming single release. It's actually not out yet. I'm not sure whether they wanted me to wait until it was out to play it, but hey ho. Just put it in your diaries. I think it's out on the 17th of December. If you search for San Dimas music on social media, you'll be able to find them. Very cool band. Natalie is the singer. We have Maz Manzini on bass, and then on guitar and drums is the brothers, isn't it? And it is, oh, let's see if I can remember their names. I want to say one of them is Josh, and the other one is Rich, and they're the McKees, Josh and Rich McKee, I think. And I think Josh is drums and Rich is guitar, but it might be the other way around, and this might be totally wrong. But hey ho, San Dimas music, check them out. They played at the Art Centre recently, they played at the Phoenix, played in London a few times, and yeah, very cool band.
Why is it the simplest things always seem to take the hardest I could feel a connection. We gelled instantly, you weren't short of perfection. The way you softly talk to me, cherishing your company. When you don't call for a couple of days, I start to get scared and my heart is ablaze. With every passing embrace, I want to quicken the pace. The more I hear from you, the more I want to see you. I'm impatient, you're right, it's true, but waiting is something I just can't chew. Waiting is something I just can't chew. If you told me you loved me, my heart would relax. I wait for that moment to be stopped in my tracks. When you're standing next to me, I feel your inner harmony. My heart is pounding every time I feel the touch of your lips on mine. I'm not wanting to leave, forever to believe. The more I hear from you, the more I want to see you. I'm impatient, you're right, it's true, but waiting is something I just can't chew. Waiting is something I just can't chew. From you, the more I want to see you. I'm impatient, you're right, it's true, but waiting is something I just can't chew. Waiting is something I just can't chew. Waiting is something I just can't chew. Waiting is something I just can't chew.
Alright, that was Annette Valentine, I'm Still Waiting, featuring Alex Valentine, and before that we had Wait and Wonder by San Dimas. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. The Annette Valentine tune is a new one as well. We had her as a guest recently, and she was talking about her songwriting process, and she tends to work with different musicians to kind of put her songs together. I assume that Annette and Alex aren't related, but they might be, I don't know. And I'm sure Annette was, I'm sure she's Scarlett's mum, and we interviewed Scarlett years ago. Again, I might just be totally wrong. I should probably check my facts before we start the episodes. But anyway, we're now going to head over to the Ilk Shed. We're going to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for some album reviews. And we're going to start with his Stephen Sondheim review in honour of the great who passed away recently.
Sweeney Todd, Stephen Sondheim, who died on Friday. Today is Sunday, the 28th of November, 2021. Stephen Sondheim was prepared to write ugly music for ugly people with ugly intentions, expressing ugly sentiments. He could choose just the right combination of instruments to create harsh textures, even in the melodic passages. There are plenty of nice tunes in Sweeney Todd, but they are punctuated with harsh stabs and often come to a grisly, discordant end as they carry with them the clever, witty lyrics. It seems to me that as a lyricist, Sondheim was quite prepared to end lines without rhymes, rather than force incongruous rhymes that would stand out like a sore thumb. It sounds like an opera, though the ever-cantankerous Sondheim insisted it is not. It has been played in opera houses. Sweeney Todd is a stew of anger, deceit, revenge and murder, as dark as a depressed black dog trapped in a mine shaft. As the writer of both the words and music, Sondheim had complete control to make the sung dialogue musically as nasty as the words being sung. Sweeney Todd expresses his philosophy as, because of all the whole human race, Mrs. Lovett, there are two kinds of men and only two. There's the one staying put in his proper place, and the one with his foot in the other one's face. This precedes a comedy number that is one of the darkest moments in the whole thing. The barber who slits the throat and the woman who makes the pies compare the comparative tenderness of the meat they would get from corpses of different professions. You can follow the story with just the musical numbers, the sung dialogue and a small amount of spoken dialogue. There are a number of themes suggesting characters, situations and emotions. One for the daughter Joanna, one the pretty women the male leads think about, one for the city on fire sung by the mad woman, and the heart-achingly poignant Not While I'm Around. These themes reappear at times that reinforce the story, often with the characters singing different themes across each other. The CD I have features the ever-versatile Angela Lansbury as a convincing Cockney Mrs. Lovett, but the actor playing Sweeney Todd is very American Broadway. The story is regularly updated by the chorus, singing the Ballad of Sweeney Todd. I really like the Tim Burton film with Johnny Depp singing the part in the style of David Bowie. Todd returning home on a boat and singing, "There's a hole in the world like a great black pit, and the vermin of the world inhabit it, and its morals aren't worth what a pig can spit, and it goes by the name of London." Along with Johnny Depp is the excellent Helena Bonham Carter. Also Alan Rickman, Sacha Baron Cohen and Timothy Spall. The music is a bit less jarring, less operatic and a bit easier on the ear, more like a conventional Broadway musical. And there is a quality to the instrumental passages that is a bit reminiscent of Burton's Batman, especially in the long shots. There is also more spoken and less sung dialogue. It depicts Victorian London life in cartoon watered down CGI tones. Life is nasty, brutish and short. You can find it on Netflix, and I loved it. Sweeney Todd by the recently deceased Stephen Sondheim. Legion Leaf, Fairport Convention. When COVID restrictions finally allowed outdoor music, I found myself watching the brilliant Jordana Blake at the Flint Cottage. I was telling Dane and some other friends how I was coming to the end of my pile of albums to discuss, when Jordana played Matty Groves, a song from Fairport Convention's 1969 album Legion Leaf. Anyone familiar with Jordana's music would probably appreciate Sandy Denny, the only singer ever to sing on a Led Zeppelin song. Sandy Denny, along with Richard Thompson, possibly Britain's best ever guitarist, and the rest of Fairport, got together in a house in the country to invent an English equivalent to what we now call Americana. They had studied old folk songs that were archived at Cecil Sharp House, home to the English Folk Dance and Song Society. They fused the old folk songs they had found with distorted electric guitars, electric bass and a strong rock backbeat. They were joined by the great fiddle player, the late Dave Swarbrick, who I saw playing one of his last ever gigs at Wickham Arts Centre with Martin Carthy. As well as adapting the story-based songs, they also electrified jigs and reels, the way you might now find in a Cayley band, though the Fairports effortlessly changed time signature and tempo, like a prog band. Richard Thompson in his time has written many extraordinary songs which sound timeless, unplaceable in any era or genre, and on this album Sandy sings his achingly beautiful Farewell, Farewell, based on a traditional tune, and her own Come All Ye, another song that seems to be from a pastoral past. The CD also contains a haunting rendition of Richard Thompson's The Quiet Joys of Brotherhood. Legion Leaf, Fairport Convention. All Things Must Pass, George Harrison. When the Beatles split, Lennon and McCartney went small. Lennon with his two mates and McCartney with his wife. But in those last Beatles years, George Harrison had written some of their best songs. He had a bunch of songs that were not used by the Beatles, as he had exceeded his quota. He was friends with some of the great musicians of the day. He was one of the world's great rock stars, and money was no object, so he went big. He employed the services of Phil Spector, a producer who only had one setting, big. Even with everything going for it, people were shocked at how successful it was. I recently found it on Amazon Prime Music and revisited the 2014 remaster, but there is now a remix which has tried to make it less Spector. but I love Spectre. I had not listened to the album since I was a teenager. The single My Sweet Lord was everywhere at the time. It is a brilliant and epic piece of rock music. However, I was at that questioning age when I didn't want a man who looked like a cartoon Jesus, confusing me with choruses of Hare Krishna. He got a lot of stick in the music press who named him Harry Georgeson, but the rest of the world loved it. It was priced as a double album, but it came in a box with a third album of jams. It has some great songs. It is not a double album that would be better as a single album. What Is Life is a stunning song and production. Isn't it a pity? And the title track with their sublime melodies would have been highlights on any Beatles album. Even the preachy songs are great rock music. The playing style has a natural feel of something like the band's music from Big Pink, but with a crowded studio, and everything is full and bright and just glorious. The jam tracks are good for what they are, and are a record of the best musicians of the day performing unleashed, but not something you would listen to very often. All Things Must Pass, George Harrison, available on Amazon Prime Music and probably other streaming services. Grateful Dead, Long Strange Trip. When I was young, I had little time for meandering jams, but when I got older and spent more time driving and particularly cycling, I found it more satisfying to listen to more substantial pieces, operas, symphonies, jazz, prog epics, and the Dead. Long Strange Trip is the CD that accompanies a series on Amazon Prime that documents the career of the Grateful Dead. From their psychedelic beginnings, through their folky, country, Americana and more proggy jazz periods, through to the more commercial ending where they actually had a hit single and became an American institution. They wrote some good songs, though that was not their forte. They were quite good singers, though nothing world-beating. What made them great was their musicianship. They were famous for jamming, and over thousands of hours playing live, no performance of any one song was ever the same as any other performance. People have hundreds of versions of each song in their collection of LPs, CDs and tapes, both official and bootlegs. They were the only band ever to encourage bootleg recording. The true star was Jerry Garcia, so good they named an ice cream after him. He could endlessly create intricate melodies out of thin air. His partner, guitarist Bob Weir, developed a unique style of rhythm guitar which was the perfect counterpoint to the lead of Jerry Garcia, and the bass and the two drummers kept it all moving. Their most famous number, a piece called Dark Star, was usually about 20 minutes long, with only a very short verse at the beginning and the finish. It could sometimes be brilliant, as in the version on the Live Dead album, but it could also be less so. Over the years there were a number of keyboard players, but they had to end it when Garcia died in the early 90s. They still play together in different combinations, but without Garcia there is no Grateful Dead. Long Strange Trip, the CD and Amazon Prime series. Eliminator, ZZ Top. ZZ Top were a band I used to hear on the radio doing their Texas blues thing, and I quite liked the rawness and power trio-ness of it all. I did not hear anything of them for a while, and then there they were on MTV, with a slick production and even slicker videos, and I didn't get it. They had done everything they could to make their music easier to listen to, and when acts do that I usually find the music easier to ignore. Relentless perfect timing allows my thoughts to drift away with no sonic or emotional dynamics to jerk them back. To my mind, the late 70s blast of raw musical energy had a positive effect on all the music of the time, even the old guard from the 60s, whereas the 80s overproduced synth and digital effects had a detrimental effect, especially on acts like the Stones, The Who and even Bob Dylan. ZZ Top played songs like Lagrange and Tush in the 70s. They relied heavily on repetitive John Lee Hooker type riffs, but kept your attention by stripping back and adding to the sound, soft passages and climaxes. 80s ZZ Top are to 70s ZZ Top what Starship are to Jefferson Airplane. The hats are high like disco. The bass drum is often 4 to the floor. They must have played to a click to fit with the sequence synths. The guitar sounds are nicely distorted, and there is even a slap bass, and thankfully there is none of that Phil Collins gated reverb snare too high in the mix. Now that I own a copy of Eliminator, which I bought from the Oxfam Beaconsfield Book and Music store, I've realised I needed to recommend it as a superior pop album. What it does have is well-performed catchy songs, pop rock hits that stood out amongst all the overproduced product from the manufactured pretty boys and girls that was churned out by consumer-orientated conglomerates at the time. So we have Gimme All Your Lovin', Legs, and Sharp Dressed Man. The rest of the album throws up no surprises nor disappointments. It just chugs along amiably. Billy Gibbons plays some fine blues rock solo guitar with just the right tone. Even the anomaly of the blues solo with its major against minor dissonance does little to distract. It all just chugs along, so you can tap your fingers on the steering wheel as you cruise your imaginary Route 66, the ideal driving CD. Eliminator, ZZ Top. Steely Dan, Asia. I won't say where Steely Dan got their name, but you should Google it, if only for a laugh. They made a whole string of brilliant albums in the 70s. They started out as a very superior rock band, but soon became just the central duo of Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, using a cream of session musicians to craft a more jazz-orientated sound. Asia is the second to last album they made before they split for a couple of decades. It is an ever-changing soundscape of musical excellence, easy to listen to but never easy listening. Intriguing lyrics sung sardonically with complex close harmonies. A rock record that seamlessly slips in and out of something a bit more funky. Jazz elements abound, horn riffs, tinkling electric piano and all manner of guitar solos. It has some catchy tunes. The chorus to Deacon Blues will get stuck in your head. I particularly like the song Peg, which has a very simple horn line that does not occur anywhere near as often as you imagine it will. You find yourself noticing its absence when you hum it in places it doesn't appear. Another highlight for me is the magnificently moody keyboard and guitar intro to Josie, which you have to wait right till the end for it to reappear. Something is always catching your ear, and you wait to hear it again, often with misplaced anticipation. The music is grown up without being world-weary. It is sophisticated without being elitist. Were it to go any further in any direction, it would be an entirely different genre. Asia, Steely Dan.
Alright, there's been some album reviews by Twangling Jack Ford. You're listening to the Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And we have another new release. This is Fabulous Parfait, another long-term favourite of the show. They've been on in the past. We play their music quite often. This is their new tune, You're So Special. Check out their music video. It involves cross-dressing and is all done in one take. It's very cool stuff. You're So Special by Fabulous Parfait.
A certain sense of sin that will make you stronger. The way you prance, the style you dance, you will learn to suffer. A certain sense of swing makes you like no other. The way you walk, the things you talk, how you smear and smother. Oh, you're so special, so special. I love the things you do to me. Look at me, I see you look at me. How I shine in front of thee. The waist you keep so slim, it will take you further. Do that thing that makes you crawl and win while I eat my supper. A certain sense of spin makes you shine like glitter. The way you bite flesh with delight, tu m'arraches le cœur. Oh, you're so special, so special. I love the things you do to me. Look at me, I see you look at me. How I shine in front of thee. top world out there. Oh, you're so special, so special. I love the things you do to me. Look at me, why don't you look at me? How I shine in front of thee. You're so special, so special. You tell yourself in the mirror, come to me, why don't you come to me? Why you make me suffer? Ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da,
Alright, that was You're So Special by Fabulous Parfait. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And we're going to head over back to the Ilk Shed to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for some more album reviews.
Deep Purple in rock. Deep Purple were hard rock pioneers, but also a band that had hit singles and appeared on Top of the Pops. When Deep Purple in Rock came out with its famous Mount Rushmore cover, we were already singing the riff to their non-album single Black Knight, which is on the CD, obviously. In Rock starts with a great bang of non-specific rock band noise, from which appears some wild guitar whammy bass swooping and diving, and then some churchy organ cadences, before the band steam in with some heavy riffing, soloing, and Ian Gillan's characteristic screaming in tune. This was the start of Deep Purple Mark II and the template for the rest of their career. At the time, we would assess the skills of various guitar heroes like football pundits comparing wingers. Ritchie Blackmore may not have topped everyone's poll, but he is one of the most exciting guitarists ever to have shred a fretboard. The Deep Purple instrumental sections go well beyond the blues-based solos of the time, being much more structured, with Blackmore's guitar dueling with John Lord's organ, often with both of them using the kind of scales Bach or Mozart would have used, baroque and roll. The first track is called Speed King, but Purple were keen to avoid any narcotic references, so it is much more Lewis Hamilton than Billy Whiz. Is there a greater piece of rock music in any genre than Child in Time? Such a simple idea taken to extremes of technical excellence, starting with some moody organ and a haunting melody, building to impossible screams, a blistering bolero, and both organ and guitar spitting out staccato machine gun fire notes with deadly accuracy, and ending with a big sigh. Flight of the Rat is one of those "why don't they do more like that" songs, with a furious pace and aggression to spare. Zeppelin had Communication Breakdown, and Sabbath had Paranoid, and would-be guitarists in bedrooms with Guitar Hero posters on the walls were making plans to do more like it. The album ends in the same super fast, forceful way it started, with Hard Loving Man. The music, being free from any fashionable sound techniques and gimmicks, stands up well, though the lyrics sound misogynistic to modern ears. Deep Purple in Rock. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses were too good to be true. The world did not need another Bon Jovi or AC/DC, and it seemed unlikely that a bunch of LA gig-liggers, party-goers and chancers would be up to the job. They were surely being set up as an identikit cartoon-heavy rock band. But then I heard the songs. Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City and Welcome to the Jungle. Some of the best hard rock songs ever written and recorded. The perfect guitar stylings of Slash, both archetypal and individualistic, even without the top hat. With flowing melodic passages and dazzling flurries. Most of all, they had that element essential to hard rock bands, swagger and pose, and they had it in spades. Swagger and pose like the Stones, Thin Lizzy and Aerosmith. The lifestyle, the debauchery, leather, denim, tattoos and a lot of hair. Appetite for Destruction is all you could want from a hard rock album and more. Great solos, great songs. It leaps off the drum riser squealing a long high bent note, and it struts and teases the way that Axl Rose used to shake his lower body. And it has that great slash guitar riff that tops all the polls. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. An Electric Storm, White Noise. This is very much a cult album, even though it was released on a major label. At several times in my life I've known unconnected people who were obsessed with it. It seemed to be playing on those occasions after a night in the pub, when a group of friends would be winding down, and this would add some uneasy strangeness to the proceedings. Like a soundtrack to an imaginary ghost story. Like someone was planning on getting out an Ouija board. It was intended as a single, but then became a whole album, and was recorded by pioneers of electronic music, including the now legendary Delia Derbyshire, famous for creating the Doctor Who theme. Like the Doctor Who theme, back in the day, this sounded scary in a way that no up-to-date digital reimagining ever could. There are twisted melodies and sharp stabbing chords that drill into your head like a sadistic dentist. And there's a lot of moaning and shrieking, both of extreme pain and extreme pleasure. But it is not just a collection of woo-woo horror noises. These were songs created using all the sound engineering resources available in 1969. The songs have a show tune quality to them, though the accompaniment is often sonic textures and atmospheres, rather than conventional harmony and counterpoint. This was not intended just to sound experimental, but to be a different take on popular music. It is catchy enough to see how they may have thought that was possible. It is a turning off the main path, taken with fellow travellers like Zappa, Beefheart, and the 60s avant-garde composers. It could have been a whole genre, but it remains a dead end. It is music that does not aim to be happy or relaxing, but intense and slightly unnerving. The last track is called A Black Mass, An Electric Storm in Hell. An Electric Storm by White Noise. John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band. A CD I found in a charity shop for $2.99. The first proper solo singles released by John Lennon were rough and ready, hastily written and recorded, and had a freshness and energy about them that made them stand out as classics. Give Peace a Chance, Cold Turkey, Instant Karma and Power to the People. Memorable musical sloganeering, bathed in tiled toilet wall echo. If I was to record an album with just two of my mates, it would be for financial reasons. But when the biggest rock star of all time does it, it is a statement. Lennon made a whole album with just himself, Klaus Voormann on bass and Ringo on drums, with a bit of help from his friends Billy Preston and Phil Spector. The remarkable thing is that the tracks do not all sound the same. Some have piano, some pleasant smooth electric guitar, which had this been a Beatles album, I would have assumed was played by George. There is some finger-picked acoustic, some strummed acoustic, and some of the angry double-stop distorted guitar he often used, especially to accompany screamed singing. It is impossible not to view the life of John Lennon as tragic, but this is an album of him letting go. As the Beatles ended, he suffered from an acute sense of betrayal, abandonment, and too much junkie business. In the final song he lists everything he no longer believes in, and announces that he only believes in himself and Yoko. At other points he is motivating himself and encouraging the world to do likewise. He takes a massive swipe at the system in Working Class Hero and releases his frustration in great howls of primal scream. It is not in any way easy listening, yet it contains one of his greatest songs. A song called Love, a song often forgotten, a song that might have been ruined by overproduction on his later, softer, sometimes in places quite bland but more commercial albums. Other standout moments are The Harrowing Mother and God, with Billy Preston's immaculately conceived gospel piano. John Lennon Plastic Ono Band may in itself be the concept by which we measure our pain. Damn the Torpedoes, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers crashed onto the British music scene with American Girl, just as punk was brewing, and with its freshness and energy it achieved a popularity not matched in Petty's native USA. Other songs such as Everything That's Rock and Roll's Fine and Listen to Her Heart cemented his position. Damn the Torpedoes was the third album and the one that needed to be a stateside hit, so they made a perfect album. The Heartbreakers have that classic American rock sound with lots of guitars and swirling Hammond organ. A bit Dylan-esque, a bit Americana, a bit Birdsey Jingle Jangle, and a bit old times rock and roll. Classic songs like Refugee, Don't You Do Me Like That, and like Even the Losers, they got lucky this time. If I had to choose one rock song to show how a piece of music can change your mood in a heartbeat, it would be the second track, Here Comes My Girl. It starts dark and moody and is sung half-heartedly, almost spoken. Then when he sings the title line, it's like the clouds have parted, light is streaming in on waves of chiming guitar and sparkling piano arpeggios. Damn the Torpedoes, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak. Thin Lizzy had had a big hit with Whiskey in the Jar, but had not made it into the big league when I saw them playing in the canteen at Brunel University. They had just released the Jailbreak album and were showing a confidence that defied their years in the doldrums. The guitarist act of harmony guitars and posing like gunslingers with one foot on the monitors had even by then been thoroughly choreographed. Phil Lynott was swinging the neck of his bass guitar like a machine-gunning gangster, with light flashing off the silver scratch plate. It was later the same year that I saw them at Hammersmith Odeon, after the album had been a big success, and the single The Boys Are Back in Town had become an anthem. It was not long after that I saw them headlining the Reading Festival. With an American called Scott and a Scot called Brian, they conjured up a much more thunderous and savage Irishness than the diddly-diddly theme pub ceilidh bands of County Kilburn and Camden Town, like hard rock pipers murderously stomping the fields of Athen Rye in two-part harmony. Like Van Morrison at his most Irish meets Springsteen at his most street poet, with metal riffs that could have been forged in the Black Country. They hint at the battle rhythms of the Boran mixed with soulful, funky Nile Rodgers type chomping. Celtic melodies will appear on one guitar, and then second time through they'll be joined by the other with a harmony. Phil Lynott was the rock star's rock star, the mixed race cowboy in tight leather trousers, a man whose life was part of the show, an artistic expression in its own right, an exercise in excess. And if you don't get the album Jailbreak, get the album Live and Dangerous, if you are any kind of a rock fan.
Alright, big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album reviews. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Tom Bradley Jr. with Gold.
One man's fools, another man's treasure. It's a feeling I can't measure. Open your heart up to me, yeah. And maybe then you will see. You were made of gold to me. You were made of gold to me. stressing out on us too. You were made of gold. You were made of gold. You were made of I don't know why I let you go. Funniest girl I've ever known. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. I guess you say, what can make me feel this way, my girl? I'm talking about my girl. I've got so much honey, the bees in the bee. I've got a sweeter song that I can sing than the birds in the tree. Well, I guess you say, what can
that was My Girl by Straight 8, cover of The Temptations. Before that we had Gold by Tom Bradley Jr., not a cover by Spandau Ballet. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. This is normally the part of the show where we would get Twangling Jack Ford to do some album reviews, but seeing as it has been our second Twangling Jack Ford album review special, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to remind you, you can find us on Facebook if you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound. You should be able to find us. You can also catch up with us. We're on the Listen Again on the Wickham Sound website. We're on Spotify, iTunes, all of the podcast providers. And you can email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your music, your poetry, and your local creative news. So, with all that said, I'm going to leave you now with one last tune, and this is Emotional Warning by Humans Can't Reboot. I will see you and speak to you next week.